Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to jump right into a really powerful critique of what's happening in Pakistan, drawing on an analysis that frankly questions the very foundations of its political, judicial, and even its social systems.
Okay, let's just start with this quote, because it really cuts straight to the heart of the matter. It's a pretty provocative thing to say, but it perfectly frames the big issue we're going to explore today. This deep-seated confusion and concern over who is really running the show in Pakistan. So, first up, let's dive into the political arena. And really, this whole analysis kind of hinges on the incredibly contentious situation surrounding the former Prime Minister, Imran Khan. His case has become a massive flashpoint for the entire country.
And this raises a really critical question. Let's just assume for a second that these personal allegations are 100% true. Do they actually justify the sheer scale of this state's reaction? It sets this really troubling precedent, right? Where someone's private life gets weaponized for purely political reasons.
Now this slide, wow. It just perfectly captures the information war going on here. On one side, you've got Khan's family claiming he's being held in a death cell, that he's being tortured. But the official story? Nope, that's all misinformation. He's being treated completely by the book. So who do you believe? You're left with two completely different stories.
So, in response to these claims that he's being isolated, the government put out these numbers showing, look, he's had hundreds of visits. But, and this is a huge but, there's a key piece of context here. These meetings have apparently been suspended during really important moments of political change, which kind of makes you question how consistent this access really is.
And this right here gets to the absolute core of the critique. When you start applying rules to some people but not to others, for example, when the mainstream media is apparently not even allowed to say Imran Khan's name out loud, well, that's when the whole idea of rule of law just starts to fall apart.
All right, so let's shift gears a bit. How does all this internal chaos spill over onto the world stage? Because it turns out, the lines of authority there are just as blurry. And it makes you wonder, who is actually running Pakistan's foreign policy?
Well, this source points to a Reuters report about a really high-stakes meeting that's supposedly on the books. It's between Pakistan's Army Chief and Donald Trump. And what are they talking about? A potential stabilization force for Gaza. I mean, this is a huge deal with massive geopolitical fallout. And this is where you see the impossible position the Army Chief is in. It's a classic catch-22. Option A, Pakistan participates and you risk this huge backlash at home. Option B, you say no, and you might just tick off a potential future US president and undo years of careful diplomacy. There's really no good answer here.
So you see where this is going, right? It brings us right back to that fundamental question from the very beginning. If it's the head of the army who's making these huge international deals, then what's the point of having a prime minister and a foreign ministry? Why are we paying for all of that?
Okay, so from foreign policy, the analysis pivots and it takes a hard look at the justice system. The argument being made is that in Pakistan, the law just isn't the same for everyone. It seems that whether or not you get justice depends almost entirely on who you are.
And look at the contrast being drawn here. It's really stark. On one hand, you have someone like the activist Iman Mazari. She's a well-known lawyer, she has connections, a social media following, so she can get her case heard. But on the other hand, you've got thousands of so-called missing persons whose cases just disappear into a black hole because they don't have that kind of platform.
And this chart, it just lays it all out visually. It's basically saying there's this huge gap, right? A tiny, powerful group gets all the access to justice, while pretty much everyone else is left out in the cold.
So this all leads to a really crucial point. The analysis claims that the rules for staying safe in Pakistan have totally changed. It used to be, if you had money, you were pretty much okay, but not anymore. Now, you also need to be famous. You need to have a public following that can make noise if something happens to you. Visibility has become a new kind of armor.
All right, now the analysis pulls back, it widens the lens, arguing that all these system failures are really just symptoms of a much deeper problem, a kind of decay in the region's moral fabric. And to make this point, it uses two really disturbing recent stories, one from each side of the border.
So first, we go to Lahore. And this story it's just awful. You have a senior police officer who allegedly murdered his own wife and daughter over a small property dispute. This is a man who is supposed to uphold the law, and it shows that all his training, his education, his rank, in the end, it meant nothing.
Okay, now for the second story, we shift over to India.
You've got a senior politician at a public event who tries to pull the niqab off a Muslim woman's face while she's receiving an award. And the source points to this not as just one guy's bad act, but as a sign of something bigger, a growing and even celebrated intolerance.
And bringing these two really brutal stories together, the analysis lands on this powerful conclusion. You know, when you see things like that, a police officer committing murder, a politician acting with such disrespect, it proves that your title, your degrees, your money, it's all meaningless. The only thing that really tells you who a person is what they do.
Okay, so after all of that, after looking at the politics, the foreign policy, the justice system, we come to the final and maybe most important section. After diagnosing all these problems, the big question is, so what now? What's the way forward?
And look, the final verdict here is, well, it's pretty grim. The conclusion is that the very systems that are supposed to be the bedrock of society, politics, the courts, the bureaucracy, they've been twisted. They're not there to serve people anymore. They're there to control them. And that leaves the average person in a really vulnerable spot.
So you might be thinking, what's the solution then? A big protest? A revolution? Well, no. The analysis actually goes in a completely different direction. It turns inward. It says change has to start small, like really small, with you, with me. It's a call for individual responsibility, to act with integrity, to take care of your family and community, to help people who are struggling, and to just be honest. The core idea is a corrupt system can't really function if the people inside it just refuse to play along.
And that's the question we're going to leave you with. It's a tough one to think about. When the big systems we count on are broken, is the only thing left to do to fix ourselves, one person at a time? Is that the only real path forward? Thanks for joining us for this explainer.